Good afternoon. Today is Monday, June 10th, 2024. It is 5 p.m. We're here for the regular trustee meeting. If you can please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Is there any modifications or additions?
None from staff.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for the June 10th, 2024 meeting as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Do we also need to excuse Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
So amended.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $382,153.88 for the 5/29/24 payroll.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the payments listing report in the amount of $335,297.30 for warrants through June the 6th, 2024.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. We have minutes before us from the May 28th, 2024 regular trustee meeting. Are there any changes or questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the regular trustee meeting minutes from May 28th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. This time, we offer the podium to anyone from the audience desiring to speak to the trustees. Seeing no one that excited to be here this evening, we will move on. We have no old business, we have no new business, and we have a long report from the sheriff's office. Afternoon.
Can I answer your question after the report?
I had no questions from the monthly report. Any awareness items coming up that we need to?
Of course, we
Keep front of
had a
mind.
meeting with the city concerning the Rotary Park detail, 4th of July, working back and forth on some traffic issues. So I think we can do this for 4 slots. This work, I will be doing as well. So,
Okay.
see where
4 in addition to you, or you're one of the 4? Okay.
5 total.
Good. You have any other questions?
I didn't have any questions.
Thank you. Stay safe. Human Resources.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Any questions for me today?
I think the format of your report is easy to read, I will tell you that.
Yes.
Good.
Concise, so I like the format.
Thank you.
Any awareness items other than what you put in your report that have creeped in since then?
I guess one thing I'll note is, as a follow-up to the fire department BWC training, I had a training with public service this morning, and we have one scheduled later in this month for everybody else that's
Okay.
not public service or fire. And it looks like what's come of that is a bit of a revamp to the process, trying to move more towards electronic filing of documents. And the fireside safety committee's pretty well involved in BWC
Sure.
incident investigation, and so they're kind of capturing things we used to do on paper through their image trend software. And so working with everybody really at this point to get some continuity of the process amongst the departments and update and refresh forms, and hopefully be moving towards a more electronic process. So that would be the only thing that's really kind of cropped up since I prepared the report.
Are we still using Bamboo HR or not?
No.
No, okay.
no.
So you're looking for something to replace that, or essentially,
Yes.
or in place of that, I should say.
Yes, although bamboo is definitely in contention.
I think the city still uses it, if I'm not.
That's correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've visited with the city to kind of view how they use it. Sort of the nuts and bolts of it, because the demos I've found, now that I've done, I think 4 demos, they're not really gonna show you the nitty gritty and how it's gonna work for you in a demo.
Does VIP have an integrated solution, either the third-party bolt-on or that they offer themselves?
No.
Okay,
VIP was the first provider that we met with to talk about. Actually, Ms. Molden set that up to see what their HR functions are, and they really have more of a record repository and an employee portal where employees can see pay stubs and things like that. But as far as streamlining recruiting, onboarding, benefits, elections, it's not a robust system in that regard. VIP does link with, was it UKG, Chief? There's an integration with VIP and UKG. So that is a plus, but we haven't had a specific demo. I guess here's what we want in a system, can you show it to us? Demo with UKG yet. It was just I did a virtual webinar basically, and then the chief and John and Tim and I got on a call with them to kind of tell them what we were looking for, but we're not very deep with them yet.
okay.
Bamboo by far is the deepest. I've had many calls with them, and I like the product a lot, but it's pretty expensive. So just trying to figure out what the middle ground, happy medium is. So.
Sure. Okay. And then, unless we were going to talk about it later, is there any update as far as our new community development department head?
Yes, he is scheduled to meet with Mr. Rushing tomorrow. Fingers crossed that'll be the final meeting
Okay.
to discuss compensation and start date. But he was scheduled for his physical today at Citran. Oh, and you know what? I did get an email here at the end of the day, and it's probably his results. So
Okay.
hopefully tomorrow's
Good.
we'll have a start date soon. So.
Okay. Great. That's all I had, unless you had anything else.
And no, that answered the questions I was gonna ask about the new onboard there, so,
Yeah. All right. Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rushing?
Yeah, next is community development and risk. Mr. Crojan is not here this afternoon. He's on a much well-deserved delayed vacation. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or at least pass it on if you have any.
And I saw the average new home property value of $550, and understand that, just where that evolves from as far as the inflation that's been happening over the last couple of years. Did we not, in the prior reports, I didn't pull one, but have what our average valuation is from a tax roll purpose?
No, I
medium.
believe history, we have generally reported new
Just
construction.
new? Okay,
The median value, which is the most middle number, according to the Dayton Realtor Association for Beavercreek Township, I believe it hovers around 420,000.
okay. I'm just curious where that ended up, and I could pull it after the last triennial. So comparatively, and then if it's, because prices continue to go up.
Right.
So as far as resale prices.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Grogan did coordinate with both the Greene County Auditor and the Building Department to obtain these averages.
Yeah. But there is some concern that new home construction prices, essentially when those homes go to resell, that they will not trade at the same value they were purchased at.
Okay.
So they used to call it the CCN syndrome. Same concept. Homes were, the new home construction price was significantly higher than what they ended up reselling for. Yeah. And just have to watch those, if those there's nothing you can really do about it other
Sure.
than the buyers are in control of that, but you can end up with more than one pocket of that, and that becomes a bubble. So,
And if it's worth, we could always plug in the median value as 425, which is what's being reported, and that might be more realistic in terms of the actual projections.
yeah, from a projection standpoint, whatever we're using and the schools are using this data for, just want to make sure we're using it on,
Sure, speaking the same language.
yeah, what, from a value standpoint.
Understood.
Because I know we give the reports once a year to different groups, and we always say there was this much in development of residential, this much in commercial.
Absolutely.
So then the assumption is it's gonna hit the tax roll at some point, somewhere near that. It doesn't always. Okay. Any other updates from community development at risk? Otherwise, his report was comprehensive as always.
Yeah, Ms. Sink headed off with the Community Development Director, so that was the only other item that was not in the report.
Good.
We do have a Greene County Regional Planning TAC meeting, as you know, Technical Advisory Committee on Wednesday, where it's Beavercreek Township has 3 items on the agenda.
Good. Okay. IT.
Any questions about anything on the report?
I didn't have any unless you had any
I do
specific.
not.
Is there any issues or budget items that are coming up that we need to be aware of?
Nothing major. at the
no
moment.
projects?
List of larger projects that we've put it for the year done. There'll be some smaller ones.
Sure.
The board's threshold, but we do a couple things in the pipe. Primary focus right now has been implementing the power systems that we purchased. Scheduled next Saturday, get that installed, and the following facilities after that, as well as dispatches migrating to the cloud. So we're devoting a lot of engineering time and resources to making sure that everything goes smoothly when that system does migrate from downtown Xenia to the cloud in hopefully September.
Okay. And then we talked about this as maybe a year or so ago, as far as what happened in Huber Heights, where they were just locked out, wiped out, had been hit by some type of malware or whatever it was. Did we take the actions necessary since then to protect the township to the best we can?
Yeah, even at that point, as soon as that came out, we reviewed our policies. We were in a pretty good standing point. We've added some additional layers. We're also looking at engaging third parties for pen testing, vulnerability scanning to see what can outsiders get access to, as well as we demoed with another company a more robust internal audit logging tool that will start to analyze patterns on the network and catch abnormal behavior that may not be necessarily virus or malware, but starting to this weird behavior, maybe an actor that's.
And then you continue to test our own staff and our own elected officials as far as just to make sure that they don't respond to something they should not be responding to necessarily.
We do quarterly large-scale phishing assessments. We have anti-phishing tools in place on every mailbox, and we are currently working on a larger, with Mr. Rushing, a larger cybersecurity training policy. It'll be a more robust, probably weekly, bi-weekly trainings in regards to phishing is the bigger piece there. It's not directly cybersecurity, but it's definitely something that is the way in. So we're looking at developing a better training program there. As we keep seeing new attack vectors coming in, especially with AI, there's a lot of new things to be looking out for, getting more regular training in front of employees for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. We move on to Finance Department. Ms. Molden's here to answer any questions.
Where does all the money go?
That was a good answer.
I'm sorry, for the record, you said what again? I can't put a finger point in the minutes. So. Okay. I had no questions, so same thing I've asked everyone else as far as any awareness items, either extraordinary work effort that's coming up or reporting effort that's coming up or spending, moving of money that we need to be concerned about.
I have the tax budget that I'm gonna present next meeting, and then I'm working on the In Touch article, which is a financial summary of 23.
Okay,
That'll be for the fall.
okay. Well, that will or will not highlight the most recent audit.
It will,
It should, yeah, because that was the, okay,
yes.
good.
That was for 22, but we're still.
Okay.
gonna highlight.
There's nothing wrong with patting yourself on the back with that. So that is, from a township perspective, something we need to put out there to folks so they can trust when we tell them certain things. As far as the airport funds and some of these monies that we've been discussing, is there anything we need to do there to make sure that we don't lose anything that we've been granted or whispered of a grant or? Okay.
No, we are still, the federal appropriation is still being flushed through the regulatory
Right. It
process.
hasn't made its way to us yet. but-
No, correct.
Okay.
So when we do receive that, we'll certify the revenue and count that correctly. We actually are in the process now of applying for OPWC funding for that very project. Ms. Goff, county engineer, just sent out the information here recently. In regards to all of our station funds, they are in their capital improvement fund and are appropriated properly. So in that regard, we are okay.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Didn't have anything else.
You can stay as long as you like, or you can go back to your seat. Thank you.
Thank you, board. Now move on to public service. Mr. Schroeder is here to answer any questions.
Good evening, board.
How's life in your world?
Life in our world is good, busy, staying very busy.
Is the street sweeper yet?
Yeah, we used
No.
that shortly after we had it out. It'll probably be going back out here, probably about next month or so. We'll do try to do 4 sweepings a year, so, we'll get it back out next month. We're getting ready to do another round of road mowing. Staying busy cutting the grass around here. We're still doing a lot of concrete work on curb and gutter.
Sure. And I know that we only had a few signs that fit the, I guess I'll call it criteria for the reflectivity,
For the grant?
the grant money. So did those come
Yes.
in yet or not?
I've not heard anything on the grant yet.
Okay.
I think that was due to close in July, the grant application process.
Okay, so it's still technically
but it's-
open.
Right, still technically open. I would venture to say we'll hear something end of August, September.
Okay. And then will you or your team be attending the engineers' community engagement on the roundabouts
Yeah,
as far as
I'll
fairground and
probably-
hilltop? Okay,
Yeah, I'll probably go.
okay. I would anticipate,
I'm going or not, but
yeah, I would anticipate that memo is already making its way around. And certain HOAs are very in tune to that. And one of their requests, which has been out there for a long time, has been essentially an at-grade crossing on Treybine, especially now that you've got essentially at Stoneberry. One there, but then also one north of the hill where you've got folks that essentially don't use the tunnel, but they run across Treybine. So just that, unrelated, but you most likely will have a block of residents that show up to talk about that.
Okay.
So just a heads up.
And the other thing I can think of that's coming up is paving that we did the purchase request for last meeting. Sounds like as long as everything holds true, that they're gonna move in and start milling on Thursday and Friday, and then pave on Monday, Tuesday. So hopefully we'll be done with that here shortly.
So I was asked a question that I could not answer, and it was about the Indiana bat season. And so does that rule apply to residents in their personal homes or only developers?
I don't believe it affects residents' personal property.
Okay.
It
This was a
affects
case
us.
where one resident was taking a tree down and they had a neighbor come over and say, you're not allowed to do that because of the Indiana bat season.
I would have to do more research on that, but I would think it mainly affects greater areas.
I don't know
Maybe
I don't know.
a forestry area, if you were gonna level 2 acres of forest, that would be where that
Yeah,
would come
I have no idea what it
I'd have to
constitutes.
look that up to see.
And even if it's every species, but it'd be something, so it might, our new person that's gonna fill that role in community development, they might at least they'll probably get a phone call because I told them to call the township. I said, I
Sure.
don't know the answer. I'll ask, but and I said, I don't know if there's a definitive answer or you have to call the EPA or whoever really governs that. So I don't even know if it's EPA that governs it.
I think it's more division of,
Wildlife,
Yeah.
yeah,
would dictate
So-
that.
Or the NR maybe.
yeah, most likely. Okay. I had no other questions, unless you had something.
Thank you
Nothing
much.
further, thank you.
All right.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Next is our fire department. Chief Vandenboss is here, present his agenda.
For the
items.
record, this is where all the money goes, according to Ms. Molden. So we're always open-eared, but anyway.
So the first thing I wanted to do this evening is recognize our crews for an outstanding job they had about a week ago in the early morning hours. There was a crash on Indian Ripple between Signature and Shepherd. It resulted in, it was a one-car vehicle reportedly 80 to 100 miles an hour into a tree. Did significant amount of damage. Basically blew the car apart. The two occupants were trapped. We were able to extricate the driver, if I recall correctly, relatively quickly. The passenger took about 2 hours, which is an extremely long time for us. In the process, the crews used just about every piece of rescue equipment that we have, and I thought it was just a really good timing to bring up since we had just ordered those new rescue jacks and the new airbags. That type of equipment was critical for a successful outcome here. They were able to remove both victims. They were able to transport them both to the hospital. They actually had care flight called, which we don't very often do anymore. Care flight was unable to fly because of the fog.
Seatbelts or no?
I believe they were both restrained. But yeah, the crash was extremely impressive, but all the crews did a good job. I have them all listed out here. So Lieutenant Reddix was filling in as a battalion commander, and it was his first major incident, so he did an excellent job. The rescue crew with Lieutenant Dean, firefighters Mahaffey and Adams were primarily responsible for cutting the individuals out. Senior firefighter Corcoran was riding up his OIC. He and firefighter Kelly both contributed. I believe firefighter Ekman ended up driving one of the medics to the hospital along with firefighter Colbert and firefighter Webker. Lieutenant Smith jumped in and assisted with the extrication through the rest of it. And then I think medic 65, if I remember correctly, took the second patient to the hospital as well. So they just did an outstanding job that early morning. Like I said, it was extremely long incident time for that type of incident. Required them to use a number of skills, a number of tools. These are things, they're doing stuff that I never even did back when I was on the street. So the techniques and the abilities that they have now is just outstanding, and it contributed to both a successful outcome for both patients. So I want to recognize
Great.
them for that. Any questions on that? I probably can't answer any of the technical details, but I could have somebody come if there are some specific questions.
Chief, I just want to say the deputies on scene, they contacted me that morning, they're just thoroughly impressed with your guys' professionalism, working on the whole thing, they're just really impressed, so great. That's all you guys.
Great. No, it's impressive. Thank you.
The second item we have for you this evening is Lowe's has graciously offered to donate a portable generator to us. It's a discontinued item, and it is a dual fuel portable generator. The crews already have some plans for special events, as well as some of our technical rescue, not necessarily off of the rescue, but like if they have the trailer, things like that,
Sure.
out and about. So with the board's permission, we'd like the attached resolution to accept that donation.
When I first read this, I was reading it on my phone, and I thought it said fireman hybrid.
I thought it said that.
I was like, that's pretty impressive that they found a generator that was branded fireman hybrid. So I was like, then I
Exact same as something.
put my context in, I realized I was wrong.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 20240610-fire-A, a resolution accepting the donation of a portable generator as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
The next item is, yes, unfortunately, we would like to spend some money this evening. what is needed is the ongoing process to finish off the moment, to have the land released so that we can then purchase. It's, you see, $17,922.11. And I believe that is the last pay point before we're able to acquire the land. Is that your understanding as well?
Correct, until we actually make the purchase of the land.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I probably can't. So I'll definitely take note of them and give you answers.
I'm aware of it only from the standpoint of representing the board at the meetings with the airport. So I'll take this time just to give a shout out to Mr. Rushing and appreciation to Mr. Zahariev for attending a meeting we had last week with members, plural, of the airport board, the commissioner, and the county administrator. It was a good meeting, and Mr. Rushing was able to, with Mr. Zahariev's help, essentially bring just a bit of history to the table so that everybody was refreshed, and we kind of did a reset, in other words, of where we have been and how we got to where we are. And then there was a good opportunity to kind of dispel urban legend that had been floating around, essentially, or misunderstanding, misinterpretation of comments or meetings that certain people weren't necessarily party to but heard about. And when you talk through a can and a string, sometimes things sound different on the other end, and that's what happened. So ultimately, with both of their support, we were able to kind of cut to the chase and determine that we need to move forward with the land. We need to get the appraisal completed on that because the last appraisal expired, and we reached a verbal concept of a deal structure is the best way I can say it. And Mr. Rushing, you were going to put together kind of a summary of that and circulate that to those that were in attendance at that meeting, so that sometimes the old rule, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. It does apply, especially when you get 10 people trying to repeat the same sentence. So shout out for that, and that's why we're spending this money. So, well, you're good.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 24-fire-0232 to App Architecture for the Station 66 land release process, the final land document preparation, and the amount of not to exceed $17,922.11, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mrs. Dean? Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And then we have our monthly report. As I probably it's worth noting that a number of our vacancies have now been filled. We have a number of our folks that are currently working. And did we just start
They start the 24th.
24th? Thank you. So the remaining three, I believe, start the 24th.
Two were coming in the 24th. One has had some logistical complications, so he's gonna catch up with them.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're getting them in as fast as we can.
Yes.
So we're
This is
definitely
true.
trying to, and the process has been expedited far more than it was previously. So I appreciate Ms. Sink's help with getting those folks in and moving. One of them is actively working, and we're looking forward to getting the rest of them. Our folks on probation are all doing very well. I want to point out firefighter Wingard. He actually had some military leave, so he worked ahead to make sure that his probationary packet work was done for the time that he was gone. So just showing the initiative and hard work that he's putting in and doing very successful. So shout out to all of our probationary folks. If you could scroll down, please. One other significant note I wanted to make is this one here, this first platoon news. Firefighter Hoagland, along with firefighter Collins, were on the engine together, responded to a call where we had a mutual aid medic take a patient. They identified a life-threatening arrhythmia in the patient on the scene before the medic arrived, began treatment, so that's the advantage of our ALS engines. With it being a Kettering crew and unfamiliar with the area, firefighter Hoagland basically said that he was going to insert himself with the crew to make sure that they could get to the hospital as quickly as possible. which was very prescient because essentially as they were pulling into the emergency department, the patient went into cardiac arrest. They were able to shock him, get him back in the back of the medic. As they transferred him to the hospital, he coded again. Reports are from the crews that he would require defibrillation about an additional 7 or 8 times. We got notice from the ER on Friday morning that he was how did she put it, critically ill in guarded condition, sedated, intubated, but responding to verbal commands. So with a cautiously optimistic positive outcome, but without the aggressive treatment and the provision of ALS care that we can provide with the engines, it probably would have been a very different outcome. So shout out not only to them and their aggressive care, but also the equipment and things that the board and the community provides us so that we can conduct the mission. So appreciate that. Probably the other big news, last week we heard the bookend with Captain Harrison finishing up OFE, and last week Captain Polis began his OFE journey. So he came back pretty excited about some of the opportunity, again, similar themes to what we heard from Captain Harrison as far as the variety of folks he's working with. The one comment I've heard him say twice now is we have situations that may be unique to us, but we as a department aren't really unique in the fire service. We all have issues that we're working through, challenges. So it was kind of neat to see him talking about that. And he is beginning work on determining what his paper will be. And so we've had some initial discussions on where his interests lie and what might be beneficial to the department. So.
Good.
With that, I'll be happy to answer any other questions the board might have.
Do you have any questions?
I didn't have anything additional. Wonderful report with all of the good work that they're doing.
Shout out to your crew and obviously the sheriff's crew. I had called in an incident. There was a crash on Dayton Xenia by Coy Trebine school whenever it was raining last week, and they responded very well. So, yeah, did a great job.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. That's all I have this evening.
Ms. Frick,
Nothing today.
Mr. Zahariev.
Thank you, board. In front of you is a resolution for internet auctions, and we've done this in our previous resolutions when we do surplus equipment and we cite this code section. However, we have to do a resolution declaring who we're going to use yearly. So this is to pretty much clean up for this year, and this will be added to our January yearly board reorg. You can pass it as presented.
I didn't see where this you say this specifies who does the
Yes.
I still didn't see it in there.
In the second whereas paragraph, it
Yes.
refers to it.
GovDeals.com.
Gotcha. I glanced over that twice. Okay.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-0610-FIN-A, a resolution declaring the intent to conduct internet auctions for the sale of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit personal property of Beavercreek Township as presented.
Second, with just quick question discussion, I can't remember. I've bought things off GovDeals before that like City of Centerville was selling. I'm trying to remember, that was years ago. So do they collect a buyer's premium or do we pay a fee each time we sell something?
There's a fee.
So
Premium?
There's a buyer's premium.
Yeah.
And that is displayed at the time of when you're bidding, so you
but
know
we
what
get
that
we
is.
get whatever the bid was, and then the
Correct.
10% extra or whatever goes to GovDeals to cover
Correct.
their expenses. So we do get the true whatever the buyer's bidding, understanding that they're going to pay 10% more
Correct.
than their bid. Okay,
It's visible when you bid, so you know that.
but we don't pay an additional fee beyond that. We get the net of whatever the bid was. Okay. Thank you. If you can call,
Mrs. Dean?
Second.
you're the original.
Oh,
So you're a yes
yes,
or no?
sorry.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
I got sidetracked.
That was my intent. Okay, MVRPC, Ms. Wallace have a report of any nature? TAC was previously mentioned there, Opioid Regional Task Force. I don't know if Ms. Wallace gave any comments or notes.
No, they're still going through their grants, and Beavercreek Township has a grant submitted, but nothing other than that.
Okay. And regional planning, nothing to report at this meeting. Health Department,
Yes, I just wanted to mention again about the guard care that will be coming to the area for all Greene County residents. It is August 10th and 11th, and it'll be at the Greene County Career Center, and they do free care for Greene County residents, car seat checks, dental exams, fillings, extractions, health assessments, mammograms, breastfeeding consultations. They have all kinds of things that they offer, vision exams, glasses, all the things for vision care. So it's a great tool for residents to be able to take part in, and that is again on the 10th and the 11th of August, and it's at the Career Center. And it is no cost to residents. And then the next health department meeting will be delayed a little bit due to the July holiday, so it's on the 11th.
do they comment how many people they've treated previously? Is it hundreds, dozens, thousands?
Yeah, I think it's on the website, and they do notate every year how many people that they provide service to, and what kind of services they obtained at guard care.
Good. School superintendent, city manager, and administrator meeting?
Yes, Board, I met with the city manager. We talked about several items. First is an update on their city charter amendments. As you know, every 5 years, the city is required by their own charter to do a city charter review commission. Among those that were recommended for amendments, there are 3 that you would consider controversial in the normal sense. One is to allow city council members to run for 3 consecutive terms versus 2 consecutive terms. The second being to tie their rate of pay to a inflationary factor to the minimum OPERS pension contribution. And then third is essentially striking the language in their charter to get rid of the requirement that any income tax proposal would have to go to a vote of the people. The Ohio Revised Code does permit a 1% income tax to be enacted if it's not prohibited by their own charter. Of those 3 items, they had a work session, and of those 3, City Council is only opting to advance 2 of them to a vote, and then potentially to the ballot. And those 2 that were not advanced were they are not going to advance the income tax question. City Council is not entertaining that at this time. Second, they are not entertaining tying their pay to an inflationary factor, but they are wanting to move forward, increasing the term limits from 2 consecutive terms to 3 consecutive terms. That was only in work sessions, so they have yet to vote on it, but that will be coming. Also spoke to the city manager in regards to trees in the right-of-way as we passed our text amendment recommendation, presenting that to the zoning commission for review, passed that along to the city, and fortunately the city has that already in practice for all residential developments. Currently they do prohibit trees in the right-of-way. So we'd be parodying that if we move forward and authorize that text amendment here shortly. The last item is, since City Council is not considering moving the income tax question to the ballot, they are back in their levy cycle again.
So they're not moving it to the ballot. They were considering that as a charter, changing their charter, but okay. So separately, you're saying they are or are not going forward with income tax on the next ballot?
They are not.
Okay.
Yeah, they are not moving forward with charter amendment to amend their charter to allow them to vote on an income tax themselves. So the city charter will still require a vote of the people to enact any income tax. They are not moving forward with that amendment.
That was going to be tough.
So with that, they're back in their levy cycle, and they are looking at potentially a operating park levy as soon as November or early next year, first quarter 2025. This is not to be confused with the massive capital issue for the Spring House Park. I believe I have that title correct, Spring House Park. This is just a normal operating levy for their parks. And the millage they're discussing is 0.5 plus or minus there. So 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. That might be on the ballot as early as this November. And that's all I have.
Great. Restoration Advisory Board,
No report.
wastewater.
No report.
Township Association has a meeting tomorrow night, I believe, at the Cedar Creek Winery.
Correct.
Investment Oversight Committee, we're trying to schedule for July 8th, either before or after the regular trustee meeting. And 911 Advisory Committee, I have nothing to report unless anybody else has something that came up. Okay. At this time, we will enter, is there anything else to come before the board? Number one, if not, we'll accept a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1 to consider the employment, appointment, and compensation of public employees and public officials.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you, board. We just need a motion to come out of executive session and reconvene the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. If there's
Motion to
anything else to come before the board, otherwise, go for it.
I have nothing further. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Thank you.